In this video, I'm going to explore the physical location in which Hinge stores its user data and why it is important information. We have managed to digitize every aspect of our lives, whether that's shopping or entertainment, and even our dating lives. Every day, millions of people swipe, match, and message on Hinge. We share our photos, our preferences, our most intimate conversations. But where does all this data actually go? This is the hidden material life of your dating profile. Hinge collects contact information, gender, sexual orientation, political views, religious beliefs, ethnicity, precise geolocation, even when not using the app. Biometric data, which is how they do the face recognition, like they do a verification to ensure that you're not catfishing anyone. Messages and behavioral data. While they won't sell your data, they do share it with other companies, such as their parent company, Match Group. Now, it makes sense that they will have all this intimate personal information because you're trying to form an intimate relationship with someone online. So they are trying to enrich their database to ensure that they have better matches for the users. This can be observed in Match Group's Investor Day presentation, which talks about AI. Rich data powers superior AI models. Better AI creates exceptional experiences. Great experiences attract more users, and more users generate richer data. Now, this is all well and fine, but at the end of the day, to find Hinge's data, we first need to follow the corporate trail. I started off at the Hinge website, went to the bottom, clicked on privacy, and they took me to the privacy policy page. There I was able to find the address for the data controller, which was not something I understood until right now. This address is really important for later on, but regardless, a data controller determines the purposes for which and the means by which data is processed. The data processor or the data center processes personal data only on behalf of the controller. So that is a key difference. I didn't want to use the address for the controller as the data center. In this part of the privacy policy, they're explaining why they share your data and with whom. So here it says that it's necessary for data hosting and maintenance. So I'm still trying to find who the host is. I decided to go all the way to the Match Group website to see if they can help me. All they do is give me the same address that Hinge gave us for the data controller. So this posed challenge number 1, finding out which company Hinge uses to host their users' data. So I took a leap of faith and hoped I could gather enough evidence to prove that Hinge uses AWS data centers to store the user data. I was going to give up and choose something that could be easier to find when I took one last chance on this. I was able to find a job description for Hinge, a backend engineer, which said they needed working experience with AWS, Azure, and other cloud services. I wasn't able to find much on this because I guess the job had already been taken up, but this gave me an idea. I should just look at Hinge careers and see the job descriptions. For this senior engineering manager, they wanted someone with deep technical background in cloud infrastructure, with AWS preferred. So this gave me a really good feeling. And to confirm, I looked at the senior data engineer role. So it is clear that Hinge relies on cloud infrastructure providers, and it is most likely AWS based on this. Their tech stack is composed by multiple companies. So we have AWS confirmed, we have S3 and Redshift, but we also have GCP. The reason I'm gonna go ahead and just confirm AWS is because it's the second time we see AWS and we did not see GCP previously. Regardless, I think it is likely that Hinge uses a multi-cloud architecture, which is why we see them both on the job description. I also found this report from 2023, which was just an annual report for investors. And I just searched for the word Amazon. I also looked for AWS and data, and the only thing that popped up was this. Cloud and other services. We rely on third parties, primarily data centers and cloud-based hosted web service providers such as Amazon Web Services, as well as third-party computer systems. I think this confirms it. My logic here was that if Hinge uses AWS, then my data must be at one of the AWS data centers. So let's find one. I went to the AWS Global Infrastructure page and I'm basically on the lookout for Europe. For UK users like me, data is typically stored in the closest regional data center for speed and legal compliance. This means that my dating profile likely lives here. I did use datacenters.com, but I also used Google Maps so I could get that street view. So it's a nondescript warehouse surrounded by parking lots and security fencing and many trees that do not let you see any of what's actually there. An interesting thing is that you can actually just type into Google Maps Amazon AWS data center. It'll take you to a very different location than the one I found. But I still am choosing to show it because there's very limited access to Street View and you're pretty much just in the field, in the middle of a highway, or just really nowhere at all. You can see that it's completely like secured. There's gates, there's trees, can't see anything. This was obviously done on purpose. They don't want you to see. Now let's look at how AWS presents itself versus how it actually looks like from the outside. We know these massive warehouses are consuming enough electricity to power a small city, and they're cooled by millions of gallons of water, which is likely why AWS would want to come across as more environmentally conscious. This Amazon AWS data center promotional video starts off in a location that looks nothing like the data centers that we have been able to observe.
In terms of caring not only our customers, but to the world, to the environment.
It's the tools and support that helps us change the world around us.
Now, once complete, the site will include 30 buildings, drawing more than 2 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power more than 1.6 million homes. And Amazon told me it's the largest cluster of non-NVIDIA chips anywhere in the world.
Before, there weren't a ton of options around here because there wasn't that growth. And it's allowing people to stay, close to their family, close to home.
I don't have to stress as much about bills. I don't have to live in a low-income housing anymore.
I spoke to the head of that council and they said that for 2 years they've fought this process, which began a couple of years ago, just a few months after ChatGPT launched, but it became clear that there wasn't much that they could do to push back. We also spoke to the local power utility. They expect peak demand to double once this full campus is online.
Greenpeace also shares with us Amazon's commitment to 100% renewable energy, which is essentially just the commitment itself, and also offering customers a carbon neutral hosting, with no definition of carbon neutral or further details on how this would be achieved. So what grade did Greenpeace assign Amazon? They actually assigned Amazon a C. Now, if Greenpeace has assigned Amazon a C, where does this leave Hinge as a standalone interface? Greenpeace determined that the transition to the cloud could increase the demand for coal and fossil fuels. This is despite the commitment many companies are making towards 100% renewable energy. The very first barrier that is mentioned in the report by Greenpeace towards 100% renewable energy is the lack of transparency exhibited by AWS. And if that wasn't bad enough already, the company that is at the forefront of the expansion of these data centers that are taking away resources from the localities, specifically in Virginia, is Amazon. Now, this is really important because one of the key features of the ethos that Hinge has is transparency. Yet in Greenpeace's report, Amazon or AWS is categorized as one of the least transparent companies. I wanted to engage a little closer with the project and where my data had gone. So I did end up emailing Hinge, and there is an option to get your data inquired about it. And 2 days later, I got an email that had all my data from the past 4 years of usage of Hinge, which was really, really interesting because although there was nothing I didn't expect inside, it was very shocking to see every single prompt I've written, every chat I've sent, every photo I've posted, audio files, and a numbered count of all my matches, which was very, very, very off-putting. It's important to remember that behind every friendly, smooth, aesthetically pleasing interface, whether it's helping us find love or find an answer, there is a material world with cost and consequences. Another difficult part of this project was fighting against my inherent bias as a huge Hinge fan who has been using it for so many years. My journey started with Tinder, but then I went on to use Hinge as it seemed like a more down-to-earth. This is not by accident. They want it to be intentionally simple looking. This simplicity evokes innocence. I've always dreamed of launching my own dating app one day, but this project forced me to confront a very uncomfortable truth. The tech industry sustainability claims are built on spectacular delusion. As Mel Hogan argues in Big Data Ecologies, nature has been reduced to a commodity land and water absorbed into trade mechanisms. Hogan writes that by ignoring how mobile phones and internet traffic are the true fuel of the data center, companies construct fantasies of green technology while continuing extraction. Hogan used Apple as an example. This might be due to the duality of getting awarded an A by Greenpeace, while also being the patron saint of planned obsolescence, shredding phones instead of repairing them. Now consider Hinge, designed to be deleted. This slogan performs deletion, while the company pursues growth. They've grown exponentially. Multiple paywalls sabotage your matches. The algorithm forces you to stay longer, swipe more, generate more data, all while Hinge absolves itself of any data center accountability, profiting handsomely from your romantic failures. The app might be designed to be deleted, but the infrastructure storing your worst pickup lines, that's permanent.